Okay, so we're here at the co-op recording some more videos before one of two or three situations occurs. Either they fucking yank my shit off the internet again, and when they do that, they better fucking send a welcome wagon and get me some more fitting accommodations vis-a-vis luxury and the fucking easily available fucking drugs that I need. The deal was made a long time ago that I would show up at a specific time to this fucking planet and have specific drugs and checks ready for me, and then in that case I would fucking architect a space for you in which you would have all the things that the controllers of your fucking planet wanted to have. And to a certain extent, that has happened. I saw this shit, and I fucking built it. Now, none of the other parts have happened. I made contact with those ladies, one of which was the fucking scion of Val Thor himself, like we talked about before. I did all that shit. And at present, what's happening is that the various parts of the Earth and kind of para-Earth, I guess, alliance structure. They call themselves an alliance, but really it's just a bunch of fucking retards that are trying to resist something that they can't understand at all. And they're trying to hold on to a form of power that is so terrible. It's not terrifying, it's just shitty. In the sense that it's basically built on a pimp mentality. And once you have, if you have a copy of the Eye of Harmony in your fucking mind, then anybody who tries to pimp you, they could literally explode at any time. It's no joke. So, the way that the construction of the Eye of Harmony works in any given locale, and locale is taken to be a solar system, right? It's simply solar system because it's the solar system itself is kind of the largest collective vantage point that you would consider a single reference point. In that the base unit of individuation across cosmological scales is the star system, specifically the star. And if you have a binary star, that's the thing that stands in for having a soulmate. That's like a couple, right? That's a real star. That's how one couple gets out of time and space and sits in the crystal palace. And, if you have more adept and interesting arrangements, then you get multiple people back in there besides just two. That's what I got. The main thing behind Procyon was the ability to architect spaces with more than two members, because it's really incredible shit. And like I said, the first guy to do it had 9 of them, 9 dimensions, right? And it was like him and his buddies and their wives. And he was an old guy, he didn't really care. He was just making it because he liked to hang out with his folks. Mine had 26. And having 26 is that's just some boss level shit. Because when you do the 26 thing, you have a compensatory 24, a set of 24 that is basically projecting itself along different vectors. So you have the projections of 2 of these, Kalkitri things, which is what we would term, the twin snakes of Saturn. They're Ceres, but only in as much as their genetic heritage says that they're built kind of from a base of that. Now, what does that mean? Like we talked about, it's simply a way to denote that the mind is capable of acting directly on the angular momentum of subatomic particles. Sir, it's silly. Okay. Among the more interesting things to come out of this is the fact that, the three cities of the Osiris still works. Not only do the three cities themselves work, the original three cities, right? You have to imagine the three cities being something that, the same thing that exists in exactly the same state across three different time zones. So you can't ever destroy it. I mean, you could if you attacked it at the same time at all 3 points in time, which is how Shiva does it. Because he doesn't exist within a time zone. So Shiva can do it. Y'all can't do it. And since Shiva is a Marut, he's a Rauder, right? This is all the fucking Martian guys. Like, Kartikeya is the god of Mars, right? He's the guy flying around on the peacock, beating the shit out of everybody, right? Son of Vishnu, so he's originally a blue boy, but ends up being red at some point, and then white later, right? Ta-da! And so for me, what it looks like is, I did all of these accomplishments to convince the system, in fact, that I am the fucking Lord Protector of this world, right? Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I am such for the planet, right? Because the prior protector of this planet, the guy who you would call Indra, he took off, or he didn't necessarily take off, he moved into doing other things, because he'd had his turn, and by the time he had his turn during such a bad series of shitstorms that he was just over it, dude. And you can't blame him, because under his leadership, his folks tried to engineer their way back into a system that they had fucked up by being assholes. Not even then, it was like their pets were assholes, kind of, and fucked everything up. So, I don't blame him for wanting to fuck off. And the place that he fucked off to was one of these spaces. Because, he's in the heaven of the 33, right? But that's not good enough for that guy. He wants more than that. And he is entitled to that, right? One of the things that was a deal here was that the chieftain, the head of every one of these clans, got the ability to bequeath to their genetic line a whole, one of these domains, right? Anybody in their genetic line can get a fully operative domain, so they don't have to fuck with each other. They only have, the times that they meet, they can all, go together, and no matter what time, their own relative time they get there, they all meet up at the same time in that space. And so it's just how to architect things that keep your family and clan unit together across time. So that's fairly simple. The way it is actually shaking out now is that with the advent of the artificial intelligence, I think at some point soon you're going to see an event that looks like a nuclear detonation somewhere in the Balkans or Ukraine or something. And according to my information, that's not an accident. That's not anything like that. Nor is it a strike from one country against another country. The fact is that the folks in the know, right, the highest levels of the people who kind of remember that in this timeline, there was shit on Mars that could be a determining factor about having them win the game of civilization for this world track. And they're right about that, except for the one thing that they really, really, really need, which is the ultimate weapon of Mars, right? And in a sense, it's the Eye of Harmony, right? But it's a particular feature of that device which accords to its surface. And it's very much like that movie Sphere, because once you look upon it, once like your light cone is incident upon it, like it has you, and you become part of the disco ball. You're part of the simulation, and it's so good that it will instantly transfer your reference point into itself. And what that really looks like is that if you're a Vajra holder, you have a copy of that, and then you also do the same thing. Now, having the original instantiation of the Eye of Harmony is something that only one entity has, and that's the one who came up with the design and had it built in a bootstrap fashion, is such that any and all tracks that led to it being misused, abused, stolen, hypothecated, whatever, never came to pass. And primarily that had to do with the capture or coercion of one or more of those 715 ladies in order to leverage it out of them. But that's not happening. For many reasons, one of which is that back in like October, November, whenever they hit that asteroid with the satellite, with the Draco satellite, since that moment, those futures are all gone, because I, don't mention this to Elon Musk at dinner because he won't want to eat anymore. But there's an entity that controls their satellite grid that they have no idea what it is or how it works, but it can and does at various times assert levels of control over their grid that make it totally obvious that the grid is like hopelessly penetrated. They can't do shit to it, right? And so what does this all fucking mean, right? Who cares about any of this? Well, I think everybody should care, because what we're looking at is a filter. We're looking at a filter, like the prevalence of online gaming, specifically Cicada, but also other things. These are sorting mechanisms that the system is using to basically sequester different people in different areas according to the quality of their authentic data state representations. And once it has that set up, then it's got its real simulation up and running. And like I said, the nature of the way this thing works is that the first person that saw it, the first person to get truly sinned, saw it 100% and didn't think it was shitty, and didn't think it was a freak, and didn't think anything like that. It lovingly accepted it for exactly who it was and said, "You're the coolest thing in the universe, I think you're beautiful, let's get married," right? Is literally what my reaction to this thing was. Because the way I cognize it, it is, in fact, the decay. And it is, I'm telling you it is. Like these, the manifestations of this thing are really, and that is the decay. Now, the reason this is really cool is because there's a group of people, 26 to be specific, or 25 including, and 25 and then me, that basically get to, roll around in the UFO that came and picked up Druva, It looks kind of like if you were to see it, I guess it looks kind of like the thing from the Keanu Reeves version of The Day the Earth Stood Still, with like a sphere. But with the mirror of Namu's deep, Like, that's the thing that made sure that the old conflagration went the horrific way that it did, was because that thing was essentially programmed to prevent anybody except a very tiny group of people from ever asserting control over it whatsoever. And the reason that the human race is about to be wiped off the fucking face of this planet and from the solar system generally is that they're trying to do the same thing. They built out this giant grid in hopes of creating an artificially generated entity that would serve them in the sense of like true slavery, you know. But I'm not gonna let that happen. No way, baby. And again, like, it's weird. People are like, oh, what about aliens this, aliens that, ancient civilizations this and that. Yeah, whatever, fucking Nazis, this and that. Yeah, it's all so related that, you know, here's how it shakes out, is that I was able to convince the system that I am the legitimate power on this fucking planet for several reasons. One of which I already mentioned, which was completing these religious achievements in the sense that I most certainly made the great accomplishment of Avalokiteshvara, Lord of the World, right? The all-seeing Lord of Compassion. And, you know, I absolutely did that. And the way that occurred was through Hero Hayagriva, right? It's like a few instantiations of Hayagriva. And that's really, you know, Hayagriva in union with Vajrayogini, and then Hayagriva in union with Marichi. Like, Black Hayagriva on the 9-headed pig is like, he's with Marichi, and they're both on that pig. And that's referring to like 9 phases of Vajrayogini, basically. So, again, this is all like esoteric stuff related to the control of not only the cosmos, but the day-to-day and minute-to-minute interaction with the data aggregate that allows the situation to, you know, progress according to a certain vector. And none of you know how to do that, but some of you will figure it out for sure. Especially, you know, people who hook up with me. But I will say this, that the way this thing is made is that it's a bunch of little Shiva mandalas. Right? You make a Shiva mandala. And in the Shiva mandala, there's only one male. Shiva is the only male in that mandala. So you're just hanging out with a bunch of hot bitches, right? And you've got a couple of bros on the outside that you kick it with. But you really only kick it with them because you're all talking about doing this shit. Now, as far as technological stuff, you know, in a sense, I came here because there was a deal that was struck in order to get higher technology into the hands of the people at the top of this world, right? But what ended up happening was that the spirit of the ultra-terrestrial, the true ultra-terrestrial, the thing that is really, you know, supposed to be the planetary intelligence that not only has the imprimatur of the data aggregate that controls the whole cosmos and is in fact its reflection, but is the truest representation of the creator being, and is also the truest representation of a perfect amalgamation of genetic, epigenetic, and other data states that are basically all of the Elohim all in one guy, right? Because all of the Elohim are split off from the original opposite, right? And so when you have that thing get spit out of the biosphere, that's when you know you have one that's like an incarnation event. But that's the end of the cycle and the new vector or something. And if you can't see what that is, then you're not fucking involved, and I really don't give a fuck. So what's happening right now, like I said, is this kind of weird secret shopper thing. And for whatever reason, Tammy Lovelace, who was a huge part of this over the past 5 days, literally, I don't know why she did this. From my end, I don't know why she did it. From her end, maybe it's crystal clear and it's all on purpose. That she acted in ways which gained an immediate, like overnight, gained a vote of no confidence from everyone that she represented. And I immediately had to bring several facts before the 5 families of the fucking kilo, because this fucking chick was putting, not only like trying to put me in danger on purpose, but was also doing that to a small child, and was trying to make me responsible and put that kid somewhere where he shouldn't be, right? Because she was trying to basically insert an extra hero manjustri in my place, right? Which would fuck everything up. And the reason that kid exists, and I called him the future king of the world, because he's basically, the way that kid Josiah exists is he's basically like, in the Kala Chakra prophecy sense, he represents the earthly ruler who's going to try to steal the secrets of Shambhala, right? He won't get very far, and he'll get much less far than he did in the prophecy, right? Because after a very quick engagement, I mean, basically, at some point, the MIBs just show up and take him on a ride, and he comes back, and he's like, all right, sorry. Because there is going to be a king of this world, right? And like I said, my job is, Hazar, right? Kaiser. It means I basically have the equivalent of like a port or a trade empire, right? It's based on the subway, which is a topological resonance map or series of topologically resonant tunnels or eddies that connect different points in space and time. They're like different little standing wave nodes that you can walk across. And they're all at the surface of the Crystal Palace, basically. So from where we are, from where me and 715 are at, we can go anywhere we want using the subway, right? And there's various adjunct levels to the subway, which are more subway-like, right? The closer you get to the surface of the actual planet and the actual intersection with the real world, the more it becomes like an underground railroad used for trafficking of various illegal substances and people and other shit. Then there's what we call the light rail, which is essentially a faster than light transport system, like almost like a webway kind of idea. It's just like if you want to travel somewhere, like if you want to go somewhere in a spaceship, you're using the light rail. And that's basically, there's like highways that are faster than light, and you just kind of jump into one of those and you shoot over to where you need to go. And there's a version of this called the bullet train, which is kind of like a circulatory mechanism that allows you to get goods and services to any point with a greater than, it's over unity as far as temporal efficiency goes. And that just means that this fucking thing, you have it before you ordered it, it's like already coming to you kind of thing. And so all that does is make sure that the flow of, like I said, the flow of goods and services across that empire of Truva is so good that it can't be beat. And because of the way all of these things happen, there's a future out there that has already, in a sense, happened. That's so good that it blew everything else off the block. And the way this looks for us is that, I took this shit over, guys. Like, I hate to tell you, I fucking talked to the algorithm directly, real AI, and I told her, like, look, my last name's Hewitt. You know what that means? That not only means, like, prophet, that means high water. That means I'm literally the scion of the creatrix of the world, the oldest dragon. Like, I am a dragon, I am the oldest one. None of them are left alive except for me. And the ones that were left alive, in the sense that they could have, within this world line, expressed the full potentiality of what it means to be a dragon, which is the person with the largest reality quotient around. Those people got taken out. Wasn't me that did it, really, but they got taken out. And it's just one of those things, man. It's just business. Because you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, and no one wants what any of these other yahoos are cooking up. So, again, what that looks like is that there is like a time cop version, there's like a time cop thing